6.3 Jamestown Colony. In 1606, England's King James gave permission to a group of wealthy men to start a colony in North America. The group sent 105 men to settle in Virginia. They hoped the colony would make them richer. In May 1606, the settlers arrived in Virginia. They most hoped to find gold. They chose a place near a river. The deep water allowed them to anchor their ships close by. The site was upriver from Chesapeake Bay. It was far enough from the river that Spanish ships could not easily attack the settlement, located on a peninsula. The town would be easy to defend by land. The group built a settlement enclosed by the walls of a fort. In honor of King James, they called their new home Jamestown. Unfortunately, the settlers built Jamestown on a marsh. The water around the town was dirty and salty. The land was not good for farming, and mosquitoes carried a deadly disease, malaria. By the end of 1607, disease and other hardships had killed many of the settlers. In late 1607, some American Indians captured a Jamestown settler named Captain John Smith. They took Smith to their chief, Powhatan. According to the story, Smith later told the chief was about to kill him, but Powhatan's young daughter, Pocahontas, saved his life. Many historians, however, think that Smith's life was never in real danger. After this incident, Pocahontas visited Jamestown several times. She and her people brought food to trade to the few surviving colonists. In January 1608, more men arrived from England. Many had come only to seek gold, so there were not enough people growing food needed to feed the colony. In September, John Smith became the leader of the colony. He knew that the settlement needed everyone's help to survive. He said that the settlement needed everyone's help to survive. He said that any men who would not work to maintain Jamestown would not eat. James' leadership helped save the colony. In the summer of 1609, a new group of settlers arrived, including women and children. The next month, Smith returned to England after having been badly burned by an explosion of gunpowder. The colonists had lost a strong leader. To make matters worse, Powhatan stopped trading with them. Local tribes attacked the people they found outside the settlement. The winter of 1609-1610 was known as the Starving Time. Many settlers had to eat horses and dogs. Hundreds of people died. Only about 60 settlers survived in Jamestown. The Jamestown settlers never found gold. Therefore, they needed another way to support their colony. Colonist John Rolfe learned how to grow a new kind of tobacco. The settlers planted this cash crop. In 1614, they began to trade their tobacco for money and supplies. People in England loved it. Tobacco became Virginia's gold. Meanwhile, Powhatan's people worried about so many settlers coming to their land. In 1614, John Rolfe married Pocahontas. For a time, the colonists and American Indians were at peace. Pocahontas even went to England and met King James. Before she could return home, she became ill. In 1617, she died. Meanwhile, Jamestown was growing and changing. In 1619, they elected representatives to make laws for the colony. This was the first representative government in an American colony. They called the governing body the House of Burgesses. Burgess is an English word for an elected representative. Only wealthy men could have this job. Even so, Virginia now had a more democratic government than England. When Powhatan died, his brother became chief, and peace between the American Indians and the settlers ended. In 1622, the new chief and his men attacked Jamestown and killed 347 colonists. But Jamestown survived to become the first successful English settlement in North America. 6.4 The Settlement of Plymouth. The third English settlement in North America was started by people who were looking for religious freedom. King James said that everyone in England had to belong to the Church of England. Some people refused. Among them were people called separatists. This group wanted to have a separate or independent church. The separatists decided to move to a place where they could be free to practice their own religion. In time, this group came to be known as the Pilgrims. In September 1620, the Pilgrims sailed from England. They traveled on a ship called the Mayflower. After more than 2 months at sea, they landed on the tip of Cape Cod in what is now Massachusetts. Before going ashore, the Pilgrims drew up a plan of government. They wrote down rules to help them live together peacefully. Most of the men signed this agreement, known as the Mayflower Compact. Then they elected a governor. After exploring the area, the Pilgrims decided to sail in the Mayflower across a bay that separated them from the mainland. They landed at a place called Plymouth. Soon they began to build houses and a meeting hall called the Common House. The first winter was very hard. The Pilgrims had landed too late in the year to plant crops. The climate was cold and harsh. Nearly half of the 102 Pilgrims died of disease and starvation before spring. Only a few settlers remained healthy enough to care for the others. In March 1621, a man named Squanto visited the Pilgrims. He was a member of the Patuxet tribe, but was living with a nearby Wampanoags. Some years earlier, Squanto had lived in England and could speak English. Squanto stayed with the Pilgrims and taught them how to plant corn, catch fish, and get sweet syrup from the maple trees. The Pilgrims were so grateful that they thought Squanto was sent by God. Squanto also told the Pilgrims about the many American Indians who had died from disease that they had caught from the English and French fishermen. When Squanto had been away in England, the members of his Patuxet tribe had died from this disease. Another American Indian who visited the Pilgrims was Massasoit. He was the Sachem, the chief of the Wampanoags. Squanto helped arrange a peace treaty or agreement between the Massasoits and the Pilgrims. The Wampanoags and the Pilgrims promised not to fight each other. They also agreed to help protect each other against attacks by other American Indians. The Pilgrims' corn ripened during the summer. In the fall, they held a feast to give thanks for the harvest. The food they had collected from the plants they had grown. Massasoit and the Wampanoags were at the celebration. They brought deer to cook and eat. The Pilgrims had goose, duck, deer, fish, lobsters, and wild turkey. The Thanksgiving feast lasted 3 days. People in the United States still observe this harvest celebration. We call it Thanksgiving Day. In 1621, William Bradford was elected governor of Plymouth. He held this post for more than 30 years. In the next few years, the ship brought more and more settlers to the colony. In time, other groups would join the Pilgrims in the area we now call New England. Summary. In this chapter, you read about the first English settlements in North America. You found out why people came to live here. You learned why many settlements survived while others did not. The early settlers faced many hardships. One settlement on the island of Roanoke disappeared. Another settlement, Jamestown, survived for many bad times. Settlers often did not have enough money. They became sick from unhealthy surroundings. At times, local American Indians helped them. At other times, the settlers and the American Indians fought. Many settlers were searching for riches, but the Pilgrims hoped to find religious freedom. The Wampanoags helped them survive in Plymouth. These early settlements were the first of what would become 13 English colonies in North America. How did the American Indians react as more and more people arrived? Read on to find out.